Hello there. My name is Ted Sass. I live at Omaha, Nebraska. And thank you for taking a few of your minutes to view my cash awards repeat. You know, there's a tag at the top of the first frame of this little video, and it says there's no cash awards like these cash awards. And that's really true because I have a plan called, in a business plan for an advertising and marketing model that I created with a lot of exclusive, original branded ideas for local independent business owners organized by chapter cities under the brand of Zip Code Associates. And I don't sell franchises. I don't sell national companies with local branch retailing stores. I only sell to local independent business owners, and I sell exclusive categories. So if you think of the business directory, the telephone business directory, the yellow color type directory that everybody's so familiar with, or the various brands, directory for telephone advertising is really what it amounts to. Companies that buy telephone advertising and they're all listed by categories, starting with A for accountants and all the way through to Z for zoo. Whatever category of business, you can find them in those business directories. Now, the one I use for my online business directory is Rainbow Business Directory. And in the rainbow, then at the end, I show a pot of gold. But anyway, the plan for the reason for the exclusives is so that in the zip code organization of the members by chapter cities, they're all listed according to zip codes, and if there happen to be two kinds of a business in the same zip code, and this can very easily happen for food restaurants because there's so many categories, then they need to be split up in different carrier routes. In other words, you can't have two of the same kind of a restaurant in the same carrier route. What I'm trying, the idea of the business plan is to allow local independent business owners to have an exclusive, and then to work with other independent business owners in other chapter cities of the same category to develop a regular weekly cash awards funding mechanism, and then to make those awards on a weekly basis. So the brand is Weekly Cash Awards. And in order to emphasize, it's difficult to explain the process that I've created, but consumers sign up at no charge. There's no purchase necessary to qualify for Weekly Cash Awards. And they sign up at my branded email marketing list, and it's branded ABCD email list. And the ABCD is a phrase that's made up of letters that means that the cash awards repeat for each one of the people who sign up, each one of the customers that register for the weekly cash awards. The ABC part stands for repeating cash awards. Now, the method of repeating is based on the date and time of registration. Now, you have to back away from that a little bit and understand that when you when a server is impacted with an input, when an internet server computer is a database is impacted with a registration sign up. In other words, you fill out forms and you click submit. Well, when you click submit, your data that you put in, typically they ask for all the name, address. I want to know everything about you that there is so they can figure out how to best sell you. All I'm interested in is your email address and your zip code where you get your mail, just your zip code, not your address, and your zip code where you work, of a day. The reason for that is so that I want to be able to have the local business owners that sign up to my membership program to market and advertise, be able to sell to you and offer you benefits and the weekly cash rewards based on where you live and also where you work by categories, so that wherever you are, whether you're at work, and you go out to lunch, you might do some shopping over the lunch hour and skip lunch. Well, then you will want to know which businesses you can get my branded coupons, America Again Trend coupons, and all that have special offers that only those stores in those zip codes that are close to where you work will be offering. Okay, and then I have Gaspon coupons, which is a coupon that you can get special offers at independent convenience stores that sell gas, where I over lunch hour, if you run out, you can gas up your car, and while you're there, you can take advantage of the Gaspon coupon of their special offer of that member. And then I also have Cloverleaf coupons, which are designed for my members who are exclusive, who locate their businesses adjacent to entrances and exits of the major interstate highways that ring the cities. There's usually at least one, sometimes there's two, that ring the cities that give you quick access through the city, around the city, and then they have exits and exits all the way into the various other commercial streets and public streets that organize the city for transit for automobiles, trucks, and so forth. Well, there's usually businesses that congregate around those entrances and exits, and on commercial properties that are adjacent to those exits and entrances. And so I have those exits and entrances are typically referred to as Cloverleaf. So I have Cloverleaf coupons for those businesses so that you can identify where, basically just by the word, where they're located. Now, each one of my businesses then in the categories offer weekly cash awards. And each one of the businesses that are members that are approved, now they have to be approved because there can only be one in a zip code and a carrier route. And when they fill out the form for application for zip code association, it's at that point when they're filling it out that no one knows whether or not the database has already slotted a business in that category, in that zip code, in that carrier route, in that city. So it has to be the application has to be filtered out against that information in the database, and if that category is open, then that business is approved and is notified immediately, and then they can submit their membership. Now their membership investment is $30 for a year and $9 a week. So it's with all the benefits that are available, it's not a question of whether a business is going to want to become a member and be approved. That's not a question. The question is, can they get in? Once that slot is filled in that category, in that carrier route, in that zip code, in that city, that's it. and as long as he pays his $9 a week or she pays his $9 a week, they've got the slot exclusive, and they will be the only businesses in their category in their carrier out or zip code that offers weekly cash awards plus my branded coupons. Now, what's the repeat part is that when people sign up for the mailing list, the cash awards are paid based on the date that they registered and the time they registered. And the reason that's important is because the fund for the weekly cash awards is half of what the investment for the approved membership by the business. So half of the money is used for weekly cash awards. So when you think of, say, pick any number of cities you want, typically in Omaha, where I live, the budget for Omaha is 1,000 members, business members that are approved of different categories, of different zip codes, of different carrier routes. And in order for marketing and selling memberships, I organize it on the basis of 10 approved categories of business owners by carrier route, with 10 carrier routes in a zip code. So that's 100 businesses in a zip code, and 10 zip codes in a city the size of Omaha is 1,000 members. So if you take the $9 a week that their marketing allotment is weekly, that's $9,000 a week. And if you take half of that, that's $4,500 a week. So you have got almost $5,000 a week in one city in one category. When you take all the rest of the cities in that category and put the categories together, so depending on how many categories are in each city, you just take beauty salons for an example. You just add up all the beauty salons in all the chapter cities across the country, and you figure out, just multiply that times $4.50 a week that the business owners are putting in, and that's the amount of money that's in the beauty salon weekly cash awards. So then you have to the software program calculates the amount of money in the fund, because that's a dynamic moving amount, because there's always businesses applying online and being approved, new chapter cities being opened up. So the categories are constantly being updated, and the amount of money that's going in then upon approval is constantly being updated, so that the fund is constantly, it's a dynamic moving total fund from week to week, because the money is put in every week for the marketing allotment part of my program. Now, what you've got is a dynamic, moving number of registered customers as well, because as the word of mouth gets around and businesses that are members are promoting weekly cash awards in their city and to their customers, the amount of people that are signing up is a constant dynamic moving database as well, constantly being updated every time somebody puts in their email address and their zip code where they get their mail at home and their zip code where they work. Then they hit submit, then that database is updated, so the number of people in the ABCD email marketing list, the total changes on a constant basis. And because the payout is based on the amount of money in the fund, in order to make the award meaningful, then you have to be able to take that meaningful amount, let's just say a minimum of $25 a week is going to be awarded to everybody on the list. Well, there might be more people on the list than what there is in the fund. So that's where the date that you registered comes into the picture, because what the program does is calculate the amount of the award that is selected at a minimum of 25, depending on the amount of money in the fund, based on the number of people that have registered at the cutoff date for the weekly cash awards. And then that amount of money is calculated at a minimum with the total number based on the amount of money that's available until you can award everybody down to the date cutoff of the week of the awards. And then that amount of money is notified that it's available through PayPal to be transferred to a PayPal customer account. Now then, the next week, then that diminishes the fund. The fund's already been, that weekly fund for that category has been paid out. And then the next week, for the next week, the businesses in that category put in another $9, and half of it goes to the weekly cash awards. And so the fund amount replenishes, and remember, from the first week that was paid, there's still other customers that need to be paid their weekly cash awards. And so since the fund replenished, then the software starts calculating from the date and time of cutoff of the week previous cash awards and starts calculating down the weekly cash awards for that week. And it constantly updates that down through that list of people based on the amount of money that's available and the number of people that have registered by dates and by cutoff dates each week. And when it gets to the bottom, excuse me, then what happens? Well, it starts all over at the top again at the at the earliest date of the first email sign-up registrant. Okay, so that's where the repeat part comes in. Cash awards, repeat. So you can see how exclusive and how exciting that this program is, because there isn't any, there's a lot of cash awards being made for advertising and marketing purposes. And I think it's important to point out at this point, speaking about all the cash awards that are out there, you have to understand that whatever is given away in cash by companies is added to the selling price that they charge for whatever it is they're selling, because all advertising it's not paid for by the company, it's paid for by the consumers that buy the products of those companies. So all this billions of dollars that's given away by these big companies to try to impact their share of market. It's not even advertising anymore by these big companies. It's just to try to maintain their share of market and take share of market away from another big company. It's a race to see who can spend as much money. But people have to understand they're paying for all that advertising and the prices that these companies charge them for whatever it is these companies are selling, services or products. Okay. And whether it's companies selling to companies to provide them with services and products in, even in manufacturing parts, whatever cost there is in running a business to in turn end up selling to a consumer, all that money is added into the price. It has to be that way in order for any company to make a profit and stay in business. And that's one of the reasons why we see in the news the biggest companies today, the biggest brands today, and it's been this way. The history of the biggest brands that we have been become familiar with. And some of us, like me, I'm a retired person. When I grew up, some of the biggest names in the retailing business are not even in business today anymore. They're gone. I mean, the brands are they're just the competition has been developed so severely throughout the world, and we've been impacted so much by the aspect of the uh, lower cost labor because of the lower economy in some of the other nations that compared to the United States, and so that a lot of this, what's going on today is a realignment in the United States in our political structure in our government in order to make the United States more competitive against the uh, situation that exists economically in the world. So you've got a situation where the local independent business owner is really strapped to try to compete because they not only have to compete against their competitors in their category of business in their city, but then they've got to compete with all these big franchise companies that are on every street corner, depending in every zip code, depending on they've set up a franchise. Uh, when I was in the franchise business years ago in the 70s, these franchise companies woke up to the fact that they couldn't grow if they continued to sell franchises the way they started out selling franchises. When they would go in and they'd sell a whole county in a city, and then they would allow the person to set up as many stores in that county as they wanted to. Well, they finally realized that people set up so many stores, and then they were making so much money that they didn't set up any more stores. So then the franchises, they were stumped on a way to grow. So they changed all that, and that was going on in the 70s I bought 10 franchises in Omaha, Nebraska, of one of the world's it was the world's largest, United States largest franchise at that time, in the soft serve ice milk business. And without mentioning their name, I think you know who I'm talking about. It's that cone with a little twirl on the top. All right. So I bought 10 of those franchises. But when I bought them, the company had already bought back the county franchisee. They bought back the Omaha, Douglas County, and Sarpy County. Had owned those two counties, but they bought them back from him, and then they split them up in addresses, and they had so much population per address for your market. Well, that's basically what my program does, but I exclude the franchises, and I don't have that big upfront franchise fee and all that cost. I mean, these people that join my program have already got a store. They've already got a business. They don't need to have all their businesses look alike. The weekly cash awards is what makes all their categories look alike, as far as competing with all the other categories that aren't members, and all the franchise stores that aren't members, and all the national companies that aren't members. That's very critical, and that's very important in competing today for local independent business owners, because they don't have any way to advertise. They don't have a top sales line that allows them to establish the advertising budget down within their operating expense part of their business. So they're stumped. They don't have any way to compete because they've got to compete against the franchise companies. They take it off the top of their sales, each one of their franchisees, and they take that money to advertise with and advertise the brand. Well, then the brand is distributed throughout each city, and so wherever people see the brand, and since the franchises are all based on a number of population center, and then when you get to the next, when you get outside of that centric circle, then you've got another franchise of the same brand. And they've all followed that copy. That's why you see so many of the different brands usually centered or located in the same general population centers. So this is an excellent program, and the exciting part of my weekly cash awards is that the way that the people who register for it as customers, once they get in that list, and once that list is dynamically turning and offering weekly cash awards every week, these people are getting cash on a regular repeating basis. There just isn't. So that's why that tag at the top of the first the first slide, there is no cash awards like these cash awards, is a true, absolutely true statement, because there isn't anything like it. This is the first time anything like this has ever been offered to consumers, and it's so exciting. Because when you think of the numbers that are involved, and when you think of the number of cities that are involved, when this thing gets to rolling, because word of mouth is going to fast get out among the customers in cities, and that travels across because people have got friends in different cities, relatives in different cities. So the word of mouth is going to get out in a hurry that weekly cash awards and cash awards repeat, and what that means, and that's a rush to sign up. And the more people that sign up, the more the businesses are going to want to sign up in different cities, which means that the weekly cash awards is going to get greater and greater and greater, because not only do I take half of the money that is $30 a year and $9 a week of each business that signs up in each city in each category, but I also take the rest of the money, the other 50%, and pay it back to the membership. Now think of that one. There's no marketing program, no advertising program like that one. And I branded it called Boomerang Membership Income. And what that simply means is all the money that members that are approved put in boomerangs back to them and is used to promote their businesses. And there's a strict budget, and there's a strict published written agreement for the members, and it's validated, and it is certified that the membership is functions as it is promises to do. I don't ask them to take my word for it. Part of the cost of the membership is to have a certified public accountant do an audit on all of the membership income and all of the membership expense. And when the audit is published online and signed off on by a certified public accountant, state licensed certified public accountant, the audit shows it zeroes out the amount of income that came in and the amount of expenses based on a budget that's published, so the business members know that the money is being used efficiently and effectively, because they see the impact of the exclusivity in their business category in their city that is combined with the other category business approved members in other cities, and I call that fungible benefits. That's a created concept that I invented to make this understood, that the categories of businesses in each city that are putting in this money, and all of it's being returned to promote the businesses of that category, are fungible to the next cities and to the rest of the cities for benefits the way that my program is structured. So you have to dig into this and you have to understand it. And it is something that is totally exclusive, totally original, and totally beneficial because competition is the name of the game, and it puts the local independent. I like to call it. In fact, I have a .com called "Make America Business Small Businesses Great Again," because because it's one thing to make America great again. I like that idea. I love it. But who is America really? I mean, sure, the big companies are America. Yeah, wonderful, and so forth. But there's 32 million, approximately 32 million local independent business owners in the United States. They're in every city. Wherever there's people, there's small businesses, isn't there? Owned by local people. And and there's only a few thousand big businesses, but there's over 32 million local independent business owners. And believe it or not, they don't have any way. The whole media structure is so distorted today, and it's so ineffective, and it's so wasteful. It's unbelievable. And it's a curious way to build a business, is to build it up to the point where you can't sell it to anybody because you don't have enough prospects. And that's what's going on. The biggest radio station conglomerate today that just a few years ago merged with one of the biggest, then merged with another one of the biggest, and created this big conglomerate, and they're teetering on bankruptcy today, because every time these companies do that, they get bigger. That means their expenses get bigger. The cost of operating gets bigger. And you get each one of these companies, and we're seeing that just recently the news. Why am I saying all this? Because the economy of our United States doesn't depend on the big companies. And it does. Of course it does. But the real point I'm trying to drive home here is the local independent business owners have always been the foundation of the economy of the United States. And we have to have that revitalized, and we have to have it more efficient, because the way it is today, you've got, everybody wants to start a business. That's just what we need is more businesses. What we need people working and making a good living, because the businesses are thriving. Because today you've got a lot of businesses, but how many of them are really growing and really creating the dynamics of the process of money being spent and put into circulation, and every time that happens, that dollar is increased in value because it circulates in different ways as people spend money and as businesses repeat their purchasing again to sell more. And that's part of that's the goal of and the objective of my business plan, is to center up on businesses and impress on consumers in those cities that by patronizing businesses that are designing their whole marketing and advertising in a way that is effective, but it's also efficient. In other words, if all the big companies are adding all the millions and billions of dollars of advertising onto the prices that consumers have to pay, that is what and these companies that are not dumb. I mean, they price their products in a price range, don't they? They have different brands They have lower value brands for the people that don't have as much money to spend. Then they have the higher premium brands for the ones that do have a lot more money to spend. But the gap in between is growing on the wrong end. So this means that there's fewer and fewer people that can afford to buy what's out there, and is put in a position where they have to buy lower priced, lower quality products because they just can't afford to buy the others because of all the advertising and all the other waste. For example, the management costs of running these big companies. What CEO is worth hundreds of millions of dollars just to simply run a company? They tell us that these people have to be paid this amount of money because they know so much and they're so effective in running companies. Well, if that's true, then why are they failing the big companies? Why are they having so much trouble staying ahead of the game and making money for the companies they're supposed to be running? So a lot of this has to be brought into reality again. That yeah, we want to pay our executives a good amount of money, but we can't. All of that money has to be recovered in the sales of the company. and and when you pay all the high money to the higher executives down the line, that starts to put pressure on the amount of money that the people that actually do the work in a company get paid. So we have to get that kind of straightened out too a little bit, because the people that do the work is the ones that are paying the salary of the guy up above. We can't forget that. And so that's the pardon me for getting on a soapbox here, but it's all related to my program of zip code associates. Why zip code associates? Because wherever there's people and businesses wherever there's zip codes, and that's where the selling is going on, in the zip codes, in the carrier routes. That's where the selling is going on. And with my program, it allows businesses in these zip codes and carrier routes across the country to be more competitive, and that's the name of the game in the capitalist system. Uh, the capitalist system has been distorted throughout the last few decades, and it's been distorted for the reasons that I've been on the soapbox here the last few minutes talking about, because the idea in business is not to see how big you can get, but to see how much you can serve the local community, the local customers. That's the idea of business. How much you can get the customers and their dollars circulating in the economy in a more equitable way that enforces and makes the local economy more dynamic and more efficient, as well as being effective. So, because there's a difference there between efficiency and effectiveness, but both of them have to be balanced. So, give that some thought. And related to this capitalism, as it applies to marketing and advertising, I have created capitalism zero profit. It's because that way, the way it is today, the billions of dollars that are being spent by advertising, by companies that buy this marketing and advertising, because a lot of it they do outside, or create big marketing departments within their own companies, and right there it tells you that the whole advertising and marketing thing is distorted beyond belief, because if companies can develop their own internal marketing and advertising departments and do their own creative work and all this and that, and it's cheaper for them, then what does that tell you about the ones that are outside in the creative field and advertising and marketing and what they charge for their services? And for these big companies that don't want to mess with it, they pay a premium so they don't have to mess with it. But as the lower companies realize, the not as big companies realize that it's cheaper for them to create their own, but it's still a massive amount of money. But the consumer has to be brought into the picture and understand that all that money has to be put on the prices that these companies charge. And you say, well, look at look at the big companies, they have the lower prices. Well, that might be so, but uh, it's still they're still having to recover all their costs in those low prices. How low would the prices be if they didn't have those costs? And not only that, but if you have the local business owners that are able to, and they're able to compete too if they have an equal playing field, like weekly cash awards. A consumer is not stupid. They might be ignorant. They might not have no knowledge about something, but they're not stupid. If they can get a pizza over here at a local independent pizza, and look, if a pizza owner is in business, let's say, well, I want the best pizza. Well, go and buy the best pizza, pay more money, and not get a weekly cash awards. You go right ahead. But my point is that if a guy's in business or if a woman's in business and she's making pizzas in her local independent pizza store, she's not going to be in business if she don't make a good pizza. I tell you right now, that's not going to happen. People are not going to buy something that doesn't taste good. So my point is, if they're there, if they're making pizza, and they've been there a while, and people that do are buying there now like their pizza, and more people can come there and buy that pizza because they get weekly cash awards that they can't get where they've been buying their pizza. And believe me, these other pizza places that are franchised, I mean, I'm not trying to knock their product, but I'm just trying to tell you that pizza's pizza if it's made right, and I don't care. The idea is to buy something that's going to nourish your hunger, isn't it? I mean, let's get right down to where reality lives, and let's start talking about the facts of life here. If you just because these pizza outfits, they have these what they call low prices. They don't offer any lower prices than anybody else offers on a day-to-day basis. They might for a short period of time, but see, that's a distortion of advertising. Stop and think about it. If you're a consumer, somebody comes along and says, boy, this week I'm going to give you a special price, and you're supposed to keep paying a higher price after that just for the honor and the glory of doing business with that particular pizza place? That doesn't make any sense, does it? Then to me, I want the lowest price every week. Well, if I give weekly cash awards to people and I do it only at certain places, as I say, the consumer's not stupid. They are going to migrate. And where are they going to migrate? I call it my independent business owners that are zip code associates. I brand them. I call them market share swingers. Because the fact of the matter is, as I say, consumers aren't stupid. They're going to go where they can get the best deal every week. And that's why weekly cash awards repeats, because they know they're going to get the best deal plus the coupons that my members can offer to get competitive within their city against other pizza stores in the next zip code. Okay, they want to keep their people at home in their zip code. See, so it all works together. Listen, I've been talking here for so long now, and I'll bet you you're getting impatient, and that's why I'm going to bail out of here. And I do thank you so much, and I apologize for the length. But sometimes you just can't get this stuff out with a couple of grunts or two, duh, and expect anybody to understand what you're trying to accomplish. And so I apologize for the length, but it just needs to be delved into so I can get down to the details. And there's a lot more that I don't even have time to talk about right here. But I'll have the opportunity to talk more and more as we go along here. So thank you so much for taking your time to view this Cash Awards repeat. I'll see you around the corner.